Hey everyone, and welcome to this guide on how to beat Ret Paladin Warrior as jungle cleave. In this video, I'll explain the tactic on how to beat this comp and what you can do as a feral druid to help your team. In this matchup, there are two important talents that can help your team. First is Mass Entanglement on a 30-second cooldown, which roots the target and anyone within 15 yards of them. Now since Ret Warrior is a double melee comp, you can either root both DPS or root the Shaman and the DPS when the enemy team is pushed in. Next is Earthen Grasp, which makes your entangling roots undispellable and reduces the target's chance to land attacks by 80%, but also gives your entangling roots a 10-second cooldown. This can be used to either root the healer far away from his DPS, or to root the DPS to stop them from doing damage to your team. Your goal in the opener is to stop the enemy team from connecting onto your healer, since he will be the target for the majority of the game. You can use your roots and CC to stop the DPS from connecting while bleeding up your kill target. In this clip, the game just started and I open on the Ret Paladin with a Rake Stun, which he decides to trinket. When the Ret uses his steed to connect onto my healer, I use Mass Entanglement to root both the warrior and the Ret to stop them from connecting onto their target. After that, I use my entangling roots from the Shaman to root him before he connects onto my healer. Now since I'm playing with the Earthen Grasp talent, the Shaman has to sit a full and undispellable root. I use my Incarnation since this will be a short game, and stun the Ret once again with Rake. After that I leap to the warrior and start putting my dots on him as well. This is a perfect opener since the enemy team did not connect onto their target yet, and we already have full dots rolling on both DPS. After this we can start putting CC onto the enemy healer and pressure the enemy team while peeling for our healer. While the enemy team is trying to reach your healer, you'll be getting swapped to a lot, or at the very least being cleaved by their damage as the feral druid. Try to kite and bear form as much damage as possible whenever your healer is in CC, and use your personal cooldowns before you let your healer use his. The reason for this is that the enemy team's tactic is to kill your healer, so if he has to use cooldowns for you, your healer could be in trouble on their next setup. In this clip, my healer is kiting away from the enemy team, and the warrior uses his Stormbot to stun me. So I've just been swapped to, but since I don't want my healer to push back into the enemy team, I use a charge of my survival instincts after the stun before I drop to low health. This forces the enemy team to start chasing my healer again. And in this clip, I use my Mass Entanglement to root the Shaman and the Paladin so my hunter can land CC onto the Shaman. My healer gets stunned and the enemy team want to swap onto me again. Since I want him to save cooldowns for himself, I'm kiting away to avoid taking any damage while he sits through the stun. My healer then gets feared after, and I kite away once again to avoid any damage while he sits the fear. The tactic against this comp is to peel for your healer while cleaving both DPS. Ret Warrior is an aggressive comp that will usually rush down your healer while the enemy healer is spam purging for a quick kill. The tactic is to keep both DPS and the Shaman away from your healer with roots and CC while cleaving down both DPS. This way the enemy healer won't be able to spam purge since he either can't connect or has to spend too much time healing both his DPS when coming out of CC, which means he won't be able to purge. It's also worth noting that the reason why Mass Entanglement is very strong against this comp is because your bash will simply get dispelled by Blessing of Sanctuary, but you can root multiple targets with your Mass Entanglement every 30 seconds. If the enemy team is stacked up, you can root all 3 of them every 30 seconds. In this clip, after the opener, both enemy DPS have full bleeds on them and the warrior is sitting a Rake Stun. My hunter lands a bursting shot on the Shaman, followed up by a trap which forces his adaptation. I follow up with a DR main stun on the warrior, and since my priest lands a DR free on the Shaman afterwards, he can get away from the enemy team. And now that the enemy team is under a lot of pressure while trying to connect, their Shaman uses his Ascendance to top his team back up. In this next clip, my hunter lands a bursting shot on the Shaman, and I follow up with a maim to stun the Shaman afterwards. Their Paladin then uses his Blessing of Protection on the warrior to remove the bleeds, since both enemy DPS are in trouble. My hunter follows up with a trap on the Shaman after the stun, and we force the Divine Shield from the Paladin. Now my healer won't be able to master spell the Divine Shield since he's under pressure as well, but both enemy DPS are low on health, so the Shaman won't have time to purge my healer. This puts us in a great position since all we have to do at this point is survive long enough until one of the enemy team's DPS dies. Eventually, one of the enemy DPS will die as long as you play defensive and keep peeling for your healer with roots and CC. Make sure to keep kiting when you get cleaved or swapped to, so your healer can keep his cooldowns for himself. In this clip, I'm forced to kite away again since my Shaman is dropping low. Now meanwhile my Hunter lands a bursting shot on the Shaman, followed up by a trap, which forces his adaptation. The Ret then uses his Hand of Freedom and Divine Steed to rush towards me since I'm still on low health, and I get a Rake Stun on him before he can touch me. I then get Stormbolted by the warrior and drop to low health. After I come out of the Stormbolt, I use my Shadow Meld to get a re-stealth to avoid dying. I then Rake Stun the Ret, and I stun the Shaman with Maim, and the Ret dies. So even though this was a close game, we managed to win by keeping both the enemy DPS away from our healer with Mass Entanglement and Earthen Grasp. If the enemy team swaps to you a lot, try and Bearform the stuns or CC chains on your healer to survive and use your own cooldowns before you let your healer use theirs, since he will still be the main target. That's going to be it for this video. Please leave a plus skill if you enjoyed it, let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.